these billionaires, they are almost uncontrollable.
That should be the end of the backroom deals, of an old style of governance.
There has to be a recognition now that fans, we cannot be taken for granted anymore.
Hey guys, it's been a crazy week. On Monday, we had a European Super League. On Wednesday, we don't anymore. So I sat down with Ronan and James to find out what's going on and what the future is for European football.
I think it's important for us to acknowledge exactly who the cast of characters are that have led us to the situation.
Okay, so you've got to think about the political figures. Agnelli, Perez at Real Madrid, pushing this within the corridors of power. But then you're right, talking about these kind of cast of characters of billionaires who own these clubs, and especially the model that is being pushed here is an American sports model. Like this was a project made in America, and the others gleefully jump on top of it because they feel that this is the most optimal way to optimize their commercial, the money aspect of it and also the power aspect of it. And for me, I mean, one of the first things I tweeted about was the fact that, these billionaires they are almost uncontrollable. Look at US politics, right? Someone like Jeff Bezos or, the Koch brothers, they're almost unregulatable. They've got that much money and that much power. And you've got that same class of people involved in the ownership of football. So someone like UEFA don't stand a chance, right? And so this cast of characters, I mean, you've obviously got, the Glazers at Manchester United, who also own the Tampa Bay Bucks in the NFL. You've got J.W. Henry, Fenway Group, owned Boston Red Sox, so knew how to extract value in baseball. And then my favorite character of all is Stan Kroenke, who's a man who, seems to alienate literally everybody he ever meets. Like I went to St. Louis literally on Super Bowl Sunday, the day that he'd moved the St. Louis Rams to LA or back to LA, because he'd moved them or was involved in moving them from LA to St. Louis in the first place. He was hated. He's from Missouri, right? He should be like a local boy done good. They absolutely despised him. And for me, that's the kind of behavior that they would do to just push that dial up on their money a little bit further. And then you've got the people. So you've got characters like that, Americans, also Paul Singer at AC Milan, who is an absolutely ruthless individual. This is a guy who owns or controls Elliott Management, a vulture fund that goes around the world buying up distressed sovereign debt of countries. And when those countries, often they can't pay back their debts, so they are given a haircut on that debt by most institutions, because otherwise you're effectively condemning thousands of people to an early grave. But then you've also got characters like Sheikh Mansour, who is literally a minister in the UAE government, political power. Manchester City is essentially a state project, a political state project. And then you've got someone like Roman Abramovich, who is a extremely well-connected, very closely aligned with Vladimir Putin, Russian oligarch, who has, they don't need the money, but they want to be, they know that their project and the kind of reflected glory and power of their project would be diminished if they weren't involved in this project. So these are the characters that were kind of driving what was happening. And it's been amazing watching the fan reaction, but I actually think it's not the fans that made this happen, because if anything, these people have got such thick skins, social media outbursts won't make any difference.
What can be done now that this kind of thing is fallen, that we'll see some potential real reforms in European football?
Yeah, we won the battle. That's for sure. I mean, it's certainly not only the fans. It played a role, just like the political pressure, the media pressure, the financial pressure, and to a certain extent played a role. But that doesn't matter. What matters is that this battle is won, and that the idea is somehow gone. Well, the idea materialized itself finally. So for a lot of people finally realized it was a possibility and not just an empty threat. And then it's gone for now. And anyone coming back with the idea of a Super League in the near future will look absolutely ridiculous. Now, on one side, this club needs to be held accountable, at least their owners. There can be no return to normal from tomorrow, because they have tried to dynamite European football, and there needs to be consequences for that. There needs to be held accountable. That's on one side. On the other, the real fight starts, because we have now the proof that the system doesn't work. We have the proof that football can't regulate itself, and that the football governing bodies at every level, national, European, international, have left the big clubs to grab too much power. And they've let them enter into the governing bodies. They've let them run the game, or at least run the competition, with a fantastic conflict of interest. When you look at how the ECA got into the UEFA competitions, they are in there mostly for commercial interest, and they control some of the commercial interest, but they also control some of the regulatory bodies that rule the game through the club competitions committee. So that can't work. So on one hand, we need a stronger UEFA. Of course, UEFA mafia, of course, a lot of people criticize UEFA rightfully, but in the end, if there is no strong regulator, there's no football. So UEFA needs to play its role, and the football associations at domestic level need to play their role as well by doing what's their job, which is to protect the game from the very people that try to launch the Super League.
What is to be done now on a justice sense?
I think it's going to be very difficult for them to punish them, I think, because, of course, Serafin was absolutely, the UEFA president was absolutely furious when the news broke, but then had a much more conciliatory tone to try to kind of entice back or break away, peel off some of the detractors, which, you could say probably was quite successful in doing, or partly was part of the reason why that happened. So I don't think that the English teams necessarily, as they have all pulled out and have done what UEFA said, will necessarily have that much. They might be fined, there might be something, but there won't be, I don't think, a threat to their competition. There won't be, I don't believe there's going to be points deductions in the Premier League or anything like that. I think the other clubs that are still kind of, as we speak, are still kind of ploughing ahead. And certainly Real Madrid, I think they will be punished. And there has to be some kind of punishment for the ringleaders for this. So Juventus and Real Madrid in particular, I think, are in a very dangerous position.
In the end, especially for the English club, it's the owners that are responsible. The players, even the top management of the club, a lot of them have discovered it at the same time as us. So it's hard to argue that those people need to be punished for the actions of their employer, of their owner. So there needs to be an innovative way, an innovative solution. Kicking them out of the Champions League was, at least for the semi-final and the finals this season, was never a serious option. I know that Perez and Agnelli are the perfect villain of European football, but they would have never done that by themselves. I mean, we shouldn't forget, as James mentioned before, AC Milan, the Glazers, Liverpool, they've played a key role in this. And the English club have been smart enough to opt out as early as possible. And I think Manchester City won that race by being the first one to formally opt out. But we shouldn't forget that they have a responsibility in there as well.
What can we learn, not just about football as a takeaway from the last 48 hours, but about the way the world works and how we could potentially create a world that we'd more like to see?
There is a way of checking the power of the super rich, and the governments have a role in that. And it's clear that the government intervention in England was an absolutely key reason for owners to say, actually, we can pick our fights. We can win against a European regulator of football. We can even probably win against a global regulator of football, but we can't win against, the guns and the weight of the British state. And so that tells you that if there is enough goodwill, a system like 50+1, which is literally, I never thought a Conservative government minister would even let those words leave their mouth. 50+1 is an option, a German model as an option for fan reform. That is what we desperately need. And I think I said this in the video we made before all this. The answer to all of this is already there. I know German fans complain about Bayern Munich, and they complain about the kind of concentration of kind of success and wealth at the top of the game, and also about the exemptions around Leipzig. But they complain about that, and they make a difference to the day-to-day running of the game. I would have German football and the experience of German fans having football, and the power that German fans have in football over absolutely any league in the world, apart from Sweden, which also has 50+1. By the way, there has to be a recognition now that fans, we cannot be taken for granted anymore, and that the people who try to do this will be terminally damaged. They will come back. This will come back. This is a zombie idea that will continue to kind of like lurch onwards, and they will come back with a different idea. Already the Champions League reforms are essentially Super League light. there are now going to be two from 2000, I think 2024. There's going to be two kind of legacy spots based on the coefficient if they don't qualify. Now, when that moment happens, when an Atalanta is prevented from going to the Champions League because Juventus in 6th place will go to the Champions League instead, if that is allowed to happen, that's when there's going to be, this will happen all over again. So we have to keep an absolute eye on these sharks because they will be back. But the only thing that matters, as Ronan says, is real, tough regulation and bodies that can regulate. Like, I think we mentioned the fact that Michael Lewis's book, The Big Short, talks about this, why the financial crisis happened. Because the regulators were captured. They were weak. The smartest people in the room, the richest, the most money, the best paid people shouldn't be the people screwing the system. They should be the cops looking after, the Elliot Ness character, in the room. And that's what we need. We need regulators that have the power, and we need laws to do that. And we need now 50+1, because I think it's the only thing that can save football in the long term.
Ronan?
Yeah, I think we need to open the doors and the windows of European football, and we need to have a discussion of what we want for the future of it, and what good does it make to the society. So we need all stakeholders around the table, including fans. We need to look into what works and what doesn't in the various model, and we have the chance to have formidable academics working on this for years, and they need to be part of this conversation, just like politicians. And this is the end of that should be the end of the backroom deals of an old style of governance based on consensus, because it doesn't work. You can't get a consensus. You can't trust those people. So you need to impose strong policies on them. And this is the end of a paternalistic approach of football. I mean, we've been told this is progress. What's been happening in the last 48 hours? It's not progress. Perez, Agnelli, the Americans, they imposing old tricks to European football. Top-down approach. This is the exact same way, major companies are taking factories on the other side of the world. This is the exact same approach. And that's the exact same approach that a club like Juve was using 30 years ago, not speaking to fans, not speaking to players, not speaking to the public authorities. This doesn't work anymore. There's strong expectations from the civil society, from the society in general, for football to be more ethical and to actually play its role in the society. So now football needs to deliver.